Welcome to the Thrive25 in 5 podcast, where we provide a quick win to optimize your health and longevity in just 5 minutes. Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast. Before we jump in, let me just take a minute and thank everyone who has subscribed so far. It's been so incredible to see how many people are listening in after just a few weeks since we launched. And if you are liking these quick pods, please share with anyone you think might want these quick win health tips that we try to provide in just a few minutes. So let's dive in today. I get so many questions about sugar. And to be honest, that makes sense. It's one of the biggest reasons we're seeing the health crisis right now. When you hear stats like 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy, sugar is a huge reason why. And it's important to remember though, we do need glucose, which is that other name for sugar. We absolutely need it, not just to survive. It's the primary source of fuel we need to thrive and do everything that we do in our life. But when we eat too much, that's when it becomes a problem. And it's in everything these days. And so that's when it stops being fuel and starts being fat. So for today's question, what are the best natural sugar alternatives? And the key word there being natural. And we're going to go through our list of the top 7 on our list, starting with the worst and getting to the best. So first up, we have agave. It wasn't that long ago that sugar from this succulent plant in Mexico, which happens to also be how we get tequila, was the latest marketing craze. Hey, don't worry, we use agave, not sugar. Turns out that doesn't seem to matter. Agave isn't any better than sugar. In fact, it contains 70 to 90% fructose, which is not good for us. It's like eating high fructose corn syrup, increases our uric acid and crushes our metabolism. So let's stay away from the agave. Next up is coconut sugar. Obviously, you can see in the name, it's still sugar, but it does have a glycemic index of only 35 compared to 65 for traditional sugar. And it has some great fiber. So it's a good alternative. If you're making some holiday cookies with the kids, it's great to use that instead of sugar, but maybe not try to have that every day. Next, we have maple syrup. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about the maple syrup on the table at IHOP or the $3.99 bottle at Kroger, where the first ingredient is, again, high fructose corn syrup. We're talking about 100% pure maple syrup, where the list ingredients are maple syrup. Now, maple syrup actually has some tough to get nutrients like manganese and some other polyphenols that are so good for our health. So it is okay. Feel free to spice up your life with a little syrup, but again, it's the dose that makes the poison, so not too much when you're having those pancakes. Next, we have one of the most popular sugar alternatives, stevia. The leaves of this plant have very different chemicals, and what we typically find at the grocery store, one of the most common, is called Reb A. Now, these leaves are very sweet, but they can leave that aftertaste that most people, myself included, don't really like. Now, there are some other forms of stevia like Reb M and Reb D that are becoming more popular. They taste better, but they're a little bit more expensive. Either way, if you can handle that taste, it's definitely a healthier option than pure sugar. And if you are into stevia and want to know which ones are the best brands, there's a great guide that we've included a link to in the show notes. Now we're getting to our top choices when it comes to sugar alternatives. Have you ever tried monk fruit? This is actually a melon, and legend has it was named after monks from China. It's really sweet, like 200 times sweeter than sugar sweet. Now, by itself, it doesn't get absorbed by the body and actually acts like a prebiotic, feeding our gut bacteria. So it's really a great option. But beware, because it's so sweet, most brands mix it with erythritol, a sugar alcohol, which can really crush our gut for some people. If you're gonna get it, make sure you get a brand like It's Just Monk Fruit. Next up is honey. While you might think it's just another form of sugar, research actually shows honey lowers our blood sugar and gives us tons of nutrients. Now, like maple syrup, the key is to make sure it's pure honey, the kind that humans have been eating for thousands of years. It was actually covered by the Netflix documentary Blue Zones as one of the keys to longevity on the Greek island of Icaria. They move the bees all over the island and you get different micronutrients from the different soils. So honey is awesome, but make sure it's raw or manuka honey and always check for the list of ingredients. Again, we have some links in the show notes to help you out. And finally, our top choice, and one you might not know about, allulose. This is a natural molecule in figs and kiwi that is almost as sweet as sugar, about 70%, and like monk fruit, it's not absorbed by the body. Even the FDA agreed it doesn't need to be listed as an added sugar on nutrition labels because it's not going to give you that sugar high. Just make sure it's a clean brand of allulose and add it to your list of things to use instead of sugar. So hopefully that gave you some great ideas for how to get your sweet fix without sugar. And if you like today's episode, please subscribe and tell your friends about our podcast and our newsletter at Thrive25.com. Thanks so much, everyone. Have an awesome day.
While we strive to provide informative and inspiring content, the information shared in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider for any personal health concerns or before starting a new health regimen.